Universities have been told to go woke by their quality regulator. From computing to classics, institutions are being advised to decolonise degrees and focus instead on the impact of white supremacy. Now, what on earth does it mean to decolonise a degree, especially if your degree is in applied maths or medicine or architecture, anthropology? How do you decolonise a degree? Well, joining me live from Exeter, let's hope he can explain, is Doug Stokes, who's Professor of International Relations at that very university. Hello, Prof. Thanks for joining us. Good afternoon.
Hi, Vanessa.
I'll just show people the front page of the Daily Mail, which says universities are told to decolonise maths and computing. There's the Daily Mail front page, if you can see it right there. So Prof, I'm going to need you to explain. I mean, if it were history or even at a pinch geography, and certainly parts of literature, I can kind of, I think, understand where they're going with this. But if it's medicine, or if it's algebra, or if it's Latin, or French literature, I'm not quite sure what they mean. What do they mean?
Well, I think what they basically mean is that you have to sort of decolonize means that it rests on a historical narrative about the perfidious nature of Western civilization. It argues that all knowledge is ultimately not about a quest for truth. It's about a struggle for power, and power plays within that. And it kind of draws. It's a very fringe theory, but now it's become very dominant, especially in the sort of post-George Floyd era. But it draws from postmodern theories of knowledge, and basically postmodernism says there's no such thing as truth or objectivity or science. In fact, they're just tools of white supremacy. And so essentially all knowledge is contestable, and everything is about power. It's about emotion and feelings, and we all impose our own way of interpreting on the world. So therefore, maths is not scientific pursuit of knowledge, or physics or chemistry or these other subjects you just named.
Yes.
They are, in fact, kind of contested knowledge systems.
I've got to say that you might have left lots of us behind about halfway through that paragraph. As soon as we get into postmodernism and contested systems, you're not speaking the kind of language that most people speak over their frosties in the morning, or indeed, their tea and toast in the afternoon. And people will just start to switch off because they won't understand where you're going with this. But admittedly, I've asked you to explain something I think is relatively incomprehensible. So let's take medicine, for example. Let's imagine you're studying medicine. You want to be a doctor. Let's imagine you want to specialise in ear, nose and throat. Let's imagining part of your degree is something to do with removing tonsils and adenoids and all the other stuff that pertains to the ear, nose and throat. You can tell I read English literature and don't know anything about an ENT at all. But let's imagine you're learning that. How would that part of your medical degree be decolonised? How would you take whatever it is that they want you to take out? And what would you put in instead?
Well, your guess is as good as mine, Vanessa. I have no idea. I mean, one presumes the scientific subject rests upon ultimately what works. I mean, if you're going to go in for a tonsil operation, you want to be sure the doctor knows what they're doing. Essentially, decolonizing draws from a kind of fringe theory in humanities and social science. And now it's spreading out of those faculties, out of those disciplines, and into the hard sciences. So as the report you held up at the beginning of this piece showed, it's now talking about maths and physics.
Yes.
And I think essentially what it basically is saying is these subjects aren't the pursuit of truth. They're not about physics or maths or what works in surgery. They are kind of all tainted by white supremacy and the history of Western civilization, which itself is seen as a very malign and bad thing.
I still don't really understand, and I'm not being deliberately obtuse here. I'm not trying to keep making you say the same thing again. Plus, I know that you are not a great fan of this and you don't approve of it anyway, so why should you be the apologist for this? I get all of that, but I still don't understand it. If you're a medical undergraduate, you're trying to learn how to intubate a patient or put one of those things up your nose and down the back of your throat, or any number of practical things that you need to understand how the body works, to understand why and how you're doing it, how the body can go wrong, what the illnesses can be and all of that. Where is the ingredient of colonialisation in that? And how can any of this wokery, if you want to call it that, but any of this interpretive stuff be stuck in your degree and not interfere with your learning how the ENT works? I just don't get it. Similarly, let's say you're an archaeologist. How would it help that? How will they incorporate this kind of thing? And also, how heavily are they leaning on people to do so?
Well, I mean, I share your frustration. I think it's a waste of time. I think that if it's just a debate within English literature or subject, fine, let them debate it out and let the chips fall where they may. But when it's being imposed by university vice chancellors, when it's being imposed by the QAA, the Quality Assurance Agency, which is a key benchmarking agency, it's a big charity. It has huge amounts of governance and power across the university sector. When mathematicians are being told to decolonize their math tutoring, essentially what they've done, again, they've taken this tiny fringe theory that's pretty much English literature really, and on the edges of social science and humanities, become a massive big thing in what is essentially a sort of racial moral panic across the UK following the George Floyd.
Prof, let me just interrupt you. I'm so sorry, we're running out of time, but just final question. Are you going to incorporate this in whatever degree courses you are teaching?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I think it should never. I mean, teach it if you want, but impose it, no way.
Yes,
it's a
thank you
massive
so
threat
much.
to academic freedom.
Appreciate your joining us. Thank you.